Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 4th of July 2021, and of course it's American Independence Day, so if you're watching this from the States, hope you have a great day. And you might recall that I mentioned that this weekend I was going to be up at my mum's house enjoying a little kind of mini family reunion, really. Seen some people that I haven't seen for a good couple of years probably, and I was sort of wondering how we'd all kind of get on and whether I could sort of glean any information how some of the young people were thinking about the whole situation. And as it turns out, I didn't really find out too much, and we just had a very nice time. None of the whole sort of virus situation was mentioned at all, or anything about the big V or anything like that. We just had a nice family weekend, just catching up on old times and just having a really good time, really. And it was enjoyable, and sometimes it's good just to kind of perhaps forget about all this for a day or two and to just get back to normal. So I was saying I didn't really learn too much, although kind of reading between the lines, as it were, the way the youngsters were talking there, they were sort of just fully expecting that things are going to go back to normal, that they'll soon be able to sort of travel the world again and do all the other things they used to love doing. And to me, that kind of almost suggests that they are kind of buying the mainstream narrative. Oh yeah, it's just going to be for a little while longer, just another few weeks or sort of month or something, and then it'll all be back to normal, sort of have no fear of that. And from what they're saying, I would suspect they're going with the mainstream narrative, but it's hard to tell with these things. And they may well be questioning the narrative. But like I say, I didn't really want to spoil the mood, so we didn't really talk anything about that kind of thing at all. Although one thing I did learn from the youngsters is one of my nephews, who's 24, was saying that he was saying that one of his friends had just bought an old film camera, sort of probably something from the 80s or the 70s, sort of proper sort of wind on thing where you sort of wind on the film with the lever. And it seems like it's a bit of a trend with the youngsters that they are sort of buying up cheap old film cameras off of eBay, getting sort of film and processing facilities sorted out, which you can still get film and get it processed as well. And quite a lot of them are turning to that, it seems. And I've heard this phenomenon going on for quite a while. I think probably the best known one is that a lot of people, both youngsters and older people, are going back to vinyl records and albums and things, and sort of buying up old record players, the things that you sort of basically couldn't even give away sort of 5, 10, 15 years ago. Now apparently they're going for quite good money on eBay. And I've heard this phenomenon being called the revenge of analog, and I think it's a good trend. I kind of think this headlong rush into a highly sort of technical, high-tech future isn't all it's cracked up to be, as we've seen. And you could almost argue that the big V and perhaps other treatments they've got in store for us in the future will turn us analog humans, as it were, into digital humans. The sort of worst case scenario is that some people kind of come out with is that we will eventually all turn into digital humans who can be controlled at the whim of our sort of lords and masters, however they want to control us, and that they want to do away with us analog humans. I was calling us sort of human 1.0, and yeah, the more technologically advanced humans 2.0. But I think the distinction between analog and digital is even better. So we are the analog humans, and I think almost kind of going back to the old ways is really, really good. And I was talking to my mum sort of today, and she was talking about how during the war, when they were kids, they had pig bins, what they called pig bins, at just up the road, and you'd sort of take your little scraps of food, bits of food that you couldn't eat or that had gone off, and you'd put it in the pig bin, and then it'd be collected every now and again and taken out for the pigs to eat. And this was stuff that was going on 80 years ago, and we think we're so fantastic now, don't we, with all our recycling and food recycling. And this council here doesn't actually do food recycling, but I know a lot of them do. And you sort of put your food into waste food into these little kind of containers, and then the council take them away when they sort of do the other sort of rubbish and recycling collections. And we just think all this kind of thing is so new, but they were doing it way back when. And of course they just lived lives which are just so much more kind of watchful, respectful and sparing of resources anyway. And you didn't just throw loads of stuff away all the time. You'd sort of, the stuff that you'd buy anyway would often come in sort of containers which you'd provide. I know back in the day you used to sort of take a big flagon down to the pub, and you'd go into the public bar side and get them to fill up your sort of flagon with beer, which would hold, I don't know, about sort of 4 or 5 pints, and then take it back. And then you just reuse this flagon all the time, rather than having beer cans which you'd sort of squash up and throw in the recycling bin, which would then have to be a lot of energy used to recycle those. And this is just reflected in so many different ways, not just beer, but perhaps you'd sort of take pots down to get other things filled up with, I don't know, maybe flour or whatever at the shop, and then bring it back. I just think they were so much more mindful of packaging or not wasting things like that. And I really think we can sort of do with going back to this kind of thing in so many different ways. And another thing is that food production, for instance, and so many other facilities were just so much more localized, weren't they? Whereas now we've just gone for all this regional or even sort of nationally based sort of centralization on so many things, from food to fuel storage before it's sent out to the petrol stations. I think there's only a handful of fuel depots in the country where all the petrol stations get their sort of supplies from, which is why they were in so much trouble because during the year 2000 blockade of the fuel sort of refineries and depots by the sort of lorry drivers. And I had sympathy with the drivers, but it just shows you how vulnerable these centrally kind of organised systems are, doesn't it? So I just think the future is almost like going back in time to the past. We just need to look at things, how things were done way back when, and kind of just get back to those. It's not going to work with everything, but I think a lot of things we could sort of just look into how we can go back to a more localized system of running our lives and getting the things that we need, and just being far less reliant on these big companies, these big centrally located systems, and just really going back to being analog humans living analog lives in so many different ways. And says me sort of shooting this video and uploading it on a smartphone. Sort of I'll be using it kind of a digital app to sort of edit this and then uploading it to a digital platform. But yeah, so it's not all bad, but I think we do, as we go forward, we do need to think about becoming more analog again and less digital. So that's a little thought, just all generated from a quick discussion I had with my nephew about his friend buying this film camera, and that's just sparked off all that lot in my head. So it's quite surprising where you can get these ideas to talk about from sometimes. But yeah, the weekend, as I say, the family weekend, it was nice, and I've come away from that feeling rejuvenated a little bit. And the only thing is that I sort of worry about is that they are also convinced that things will just get back to normal soon, and I hope they do. I hope we win this fight, and I think there's more and more signs coming forward now that we will win this fight. But you just wonder if, the people at large, the general population, will ever really realise that we were in a fight in the first place. And we'll know, of course, but if everything does, if we do win the day and everything sort of pans out, they'll be blissfully ignorant, won't they? And it will just be us who really know what happened. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll be back tomorrow, sort of start of the new week, so no doubt have plenty to say. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.